All right. Well, other news. So there were some other announcements that came out. I guess the big one being maybe in my mind, Daisy Ridley coming back to reprise her role as Rey, now Rey Skywalker, um, and kind of the beginnings of the new Jedi Order in some ways, or maybe continuing what Luke had started. I didn't see a lot of extra details around kind of what that movie's going to be about. Did they say if it's going to be like a single movie or
I'm
is it
seeing
kind of
some, so I was actually just
open-ended?
kind of looking that up too. I'm seeing some conflicting reports. There's one article that says it's 15 years after and it's the start of a trilogy, which I feel like they would have announced if that was the case. I don't think that's
Correct.
necessarily
Maybe
true.
it's an assumption. You would think
Yeah,
it's like, oh, a Star Wars thing. They're probably going to do a trilogy, so people probably just assuming that.
right.
But
And they're announcing a trilogy of three three movies,
uh-huh.
that one of which is Daisy Ridley's movie. But yeah, I'm excited. It's fun to see Daisy Ridley coming back. I'm very curious to learn more of the details, exactly how far after, because they didn't do a very good job of telling any of the details in the official press releases. Um, how far after Rise of Skywalker is
So
this set?
according
But
to I have Entertainment Weekly pulled up right now, and according to them, it's set 15 years
okay,
after
it is. So that's another site saying 15 years. Okay,
the Rise of Skywalker. So that's good. That means, it's going to give her some time to establish some things. So I'm glad that they're doing it that way as opposed to just picking up right where Rise of Skywalker left off.
right.
And kind of have a more mature version of Rey, someone who's had some time to increase her skills, to go out and find other Jedi, to establish some sort of a Jedi Academy. So yeah, I'm glad that they're kind of pushing it into the future.
Do you think? Um, do you think we will see any other characters from the films, from the sequel trilogy?
I think they will want to. Like, I think Star Wars, Lucasfilm will want to have someone like Finn there.
Although he said it,
Um,
didn't he say he didn't want to come back to Star
well,
Wars?
but so did Daisy Ridley.
That's
Like,
true. You pay them enough money, they'll come back to do
yeah, I
anything.
think a lot of these actors say that kind of stuff in the moment, or, they probably mean it too when they say it. But
Yeah,
then time passes and they're kind of bored, or like, oh, that was a fun time. Like, or I wouldn't mind doing that. Or, yeah, they're going to pay me a ton of money. So I think I never take it seriously when one of these actors say they're not going to do it again. I mean, I'm pretty
everyone.
sure Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill said it as well at some point, and they came back. So there's always the potential of anyone coming back.
Yeah,
So Boyega, I think right now he's probably, if they had already kind of inked him to come back, they would have announced it.
yeah,
The
I agree.
fact that they only announced her is probably because she's the only one they've kind of confirmed things with, but they're probably got feelers out you know, to Oscar Isaac, and they probably have feelers out to Boyega, like, hey, would you guys want to be involved? Because once they figure out who they can include, then they can
And they
start to
can
craft
write
the
the
story.
movie
But
exactly.
if they only are
So,
going to have Daisy, then that's going to change the story a little bit.
so how do you feel about them announcing these movies? We don't. There's no dates associated with these whatsoever. How do you feel about them announcing them now?
I don't know. It's frustrating as a Star Wars fan to get all these movie announcements only to have them canceled or never. Some of them don't even get canceled. They just kind of fade away and they never
Mm-hmm.
officially announce that they're not doing it. We still have technically Ryan Johnson could be working
Yep.
on, Star Wars movies. They never officially canceled those.
And the Game of Thrones guys still, in theory, working on
Right. And then they
trilogy of
ask
movies.
them,
They're not
yeah,
actually.
right. But they'll ask Ryan Johnson, oh yeah, there's still things we're talking about. So they always kind of keep it out there. But
And
yeah,
they say, "Oh, it's a possibility, right? Oh, it
right.
might. We're still working on it." Which, sure. Like they also announced the Lando series, and we've learned in the last, I think, week, Donald Glover still has not even signed on to the show. So how do you announce a
Right.
Lando series without Donald Glover or Billy D. Williams?
So I think what happens is they have these big events. You have something like Star Wars Celebration. You
Yeah.
got to have big announcements. They have ideas. They have movies that are in pre-production. They're kind of thinking about, and they want to announce them. And yeah, I guess it's just kind of become like you ask any Star Wars fan, even today, like talking amongst our friends, like, what do you guys think? Everyone was like, well, if they actually do it,
Yep.
that's kind of the main response that I've been getting from people. So I think we're all kind of, as Star Wars fans, we've kind of come to expect, like, sure, they're going to make some announcements, but only a certain percentage of these are going to actually make it to the finish line.
Which is, and I get that you feel like you have to have announcements, but it's just frustrating when they're. I would love to see all these. I'm very excited about all these announcements, but it's also I've learned at this point, right, after how many years of these canceled projects that never come to fruition, until it starts filming, I'm excited. It's a neat idea. I'd love to see it happen, but until it starts filming, I don't get too excited because
I
you
agree.
never know.
I agree with
It's
these
hard.
three announcements, and we'll get to the other two announcements. But the three that they specifically announced, I think the one that's most likely to make it is this one, is the Rey one, because you actually have the actor,
Right.
you announce it with her, like, hey, she's on board. We're making this. It's a Rey Skywalker. It's a continuation of the Skywalker story in a way. This isn't just some offshoot, like, oh, we're making a Rogue Squadron movie. Like. That makes sense as something that could get eventually scrapped. This feels like something they have to do. Now that they've announced this, they have to make this movie.
Yeah, I could see Dave's happening too, because I feel like he's not going to be someone where they're going to have a difference of creative opinion, right? And we weren't really sure. We hired this director, but it's just not quite working out. Dave's
it's the accumulation of the
all their series, exactly.
Yeah. So we'll get to we'll get to
sorry,
that.
I'm jumping ahead, but
yeah. So Rey Skywalker, I did not think, honestly, I thought that we would see a continuation of the Skywalker movies eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, they'll give it some time, but someday we're going to see Daisy Ridley and John Boyega come back, and they're going to have some movie in the future, 10, 15 years from now. So this is a lot faster than I expected that they would kind of continue that story. I kind of wonder why, like, why now? Maybe they feel like if they're the movie stuff hasn't really been working for them. They've been kind of focused more on TV. So maybe they're just kind of like, what does typically work? The saga movies, the ones about the core characters are the ones that tend to work. So yeah, I did not expect to see this. So this was a big surprise when I saw this announcement.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if
I totally. I was not expecting. I just assumed they weren't that they would never come back and do even more films. So it's exciting. I'm very, very interested to see what they do. Even if it's not a trilogy, I'm excited to see more Rey. And
I always liked her character.
Oh yeah, me too.
I never had a problem with her character, and the fact that she, the way that they did it with her is, at the end, and kind of her adoptive family, and she chose the name Skywalker. Like, I was completely down with all that. I know not everybody loved that, but
I liked it.
And I think the sequels in general, they weren't the perfect movies, but I enjoyed them, and I enjoy to go back and watch them now. Like, I'm not a hater at all on the sequels. I like them for what they are. And so the fact that they're continuing that story, it is kind of funny for those people out there that do just absolutely hate the sequels and just want them to go away. This is probably the last thing they wanted to hear.
Right.
That's it. Yeah. They're making another Rey movie, because that kind of, flies in the face of any kind of speculation that they're going to reboot it or, kind of never tell another story in that era. It's like, no, actually they're making a big major theatrical film starring the character that you probably don't like. So
right. Yeah. So it's going to keep happening. And I'm like you, I wouldn't say, if I had to, I prefer like the prequels or the original trilogy, if I, over the sequels. But I still enjoyed them, right? I think there's aspects of them that I wish were different, but you could critique anything in Star Wars, right? I still enjoy them overall. Would I've loved to see more Luke? Sure. Would I've loved to see more of the New Republic, or not have as much dysfunction in Han Leia's marriage, all that kind of stuff? Yes, but I still enjoyed the movies for what they are, and I enjoy going back and rewatching them still. And
I think
and Rey in particular was I thought The Force Awakens was particularly a really good movie. I really liked the feel of The Force Awakens. Yeah, you feel so happy and optimistic when you watch it, and so I'm very excited for more Rey.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes I appreciate movies or stories not even for the story that it's telling sometimes, but more for the characters that it introduces. And so the fact that we have Rey and Finn and Poe, like, I love those characters.
Yeah.
And so those movies to me were worth it just to get those characters into the universe, and any number of other characters that we kind of were introduced to in that era. So yeah, I'm excited to get more stories, and really kind of that's what we wanted to see, right? Like that's a lot of people wanted to see the beginnings of the new Jedi Order and kind of Luke establishing that. So
Yep.
we kind of missed that. They skipped over that in the sequel movies, but now we get
But
to
now
see
they can
Rey
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to kind of see her version of it. And I really hope Finn is involved too, but I don't know. We'll see if they can talk John Boyega into it.